For 11 days, she didn't say a word. I know that sounds like palace gossip, the kind of thing that spreads through corridors faster than oxygen leaks. But this wasn't rumor. It was recorded, logged, timed. Every single night at exactly the same hour. The lights in the Empress's private garden turned on. No one was allowed in there. Not advisors. Not guards. Not even the inner circle. But still, every night, the system activated. Soft, luminescent panels glowing beneath the crystal trees, like something was waiting to be seen. Or someone. I wasn't supposed to know any of that. I was just a maintenance engineer from a broken station above Ardent Vale. A nobody. The kind of person whose name gets buried in casualty reports or lost in system logs. So when the High Empress Seraphine Virex finally spoke, after 11 days of silence following the orbital siege, and the first words out of her mouth were, "Bring me the human," I figured there had to be some mistake. From what I later learned, the entire court froze. The council expected names of captured officers, maybe a strategic debrief, maybe executions. Not me. Not a guy who spent 20 years tightening bolts and patching hull fractures. But orders from someone like her don't get questioned. And somewhere, deep in a place I hadn't even seen yet, the garden lights turned on again. They didn't clean me up before bringing me in. I think that was deliberate. 2 guards dragged me through corridors that looked more like museums than anything military. Polished floors, towering arches, walls alive with faint, shifting patterns that reacted to movement. Everything about the place said power, control, permanence. And then there was me. Torn utility suit, dried blood crusted along my temple where something had split the skin open during the breach. Hands still blackened from sealant foam and carbon scoring. I probably smelled like burnt wiring and recycled air. They didn't bother removing the restraints either. Chains, actual chains, not for security, but for display. A reminder of what I was. By the time the doors opened, I could already hear them. The nobles. Low voices, layered over each other, sharp and curious. Like a pack of predators trying to decide if something was worth tearing apart. Then the guards shoved me forward. The chamber was massive, bigger than anything I'd ever stood in. The ceiling disappeared into light, and the walls were made of something crystalline that bent the glow of twin suns into fractured beams across the floor. And at the far end, her, High Empress Seraphine Virex. You don't really understand scale until you see it in person. She wasn't just tall, she dominated the space. Seated on a throne that looked grown rather than built, her presence filled the room in a way that made everyone else feel like background detail. Blue skin, almost metallic under the light. Markings along her temples that pulsed faintly, like they were reacting to something beneath the surface. And eyes, violet, sharp, too focused. They weren't scanning the room. They were already on me. "On your knees," one of the guards hissed, yanking the chain down. I didn't move. It wasn't some heroic decision. It wasn't rebellion or pride or any of that cinematic nonsense. I just didn't. Maybe I was too tired. Maybe something in me had already snapped days ago on that station. Or maybe, standing there in front of all that power, I realized that kneeling wouldn't change anything. So I stayed upright. The reaction was instant. Gasps. Sharp, offended. Metal shifting, someone's hand going to a weapon. I caught movement from the side. One of the nobles stepping forward, voice cutting through the chamber. "Insolent creature. It's all right." Her voice stopped everything. Not loud, not forceful, but absolute. Silence dropped like a physical weight. The guard's grip loosened slightly. The noble who had spoken froze mid-step. And I felt it then, that shift in the room. Like gravity itself had adjusted around her words. She stood, slowly, every movement deliberate, controlled. The kind of control that comes from centuries of never being allowed to hesitate. The distance between us closed step by step as she descended from the throne. I didn't look away. That, apparently, was another mistake. More murmurs. Sharper this time. I didn't need to know their customs to understand what I'd just done. Direct eye contact wasn't something they gave freely. But I'd spent too many years staring down failing systems, watching pressure gauges drop while alarms screamed in my ears. Looking away never fixed anything. She stopped a few feet in front of me. Up close, the details were worse. Those markings along her temples, they weren't just decorative. They pulsed in patterns, subtle shifts in light that felt emotional, somehow. Controlled, but not entirely hidden. "You are the one who sealed the breach." Not a question, I swallowed once. My throat felt like sandpaper. Yeah, I said. My voice came out rougher than I expected. That was me. Another ripple through the chamber. Not because of what I said, because of how I said it. No title, no submission, just an answer. Her eyes didn't leave mine. For a moment, nothing else existed. Not the court, not the guards, not the chains biting into my wrists. Just that look, measured, searching, like she was comparing what she saw to something already in her mind. You saved 312 lives, she continued. 87 of them were children. I hadn't counted. Didn't want to. Someone had to, I said. That should have been it. A statement. A fact. Nothing more. But something changed. It was small. So small I almost missed it. A shift around her eyes. A fraction of tension releasing along her jaw. The kind of micro-expression most people wouldn't even register. I did. Because I'd spent 20 years reading systems that failed quietly before they failed catastrophically. And that looked like something cracking under pressure. Around us, the nobles were restless now. Confused. Off balance. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. A prisoner doesn't stand. Doesn't speak. Doesn't meet the empress's gaze like an equal. But she didn't correct it. Didn't punish it. Instead, she stepped even closer. Close enough that I could see faint gold fractures within the violet of her eyes. Close enough that the pulsing light along her temples became impossible to ignore. Why? Just one word. But it carried more weight than everything else she'd said combined. I hesitated. Not because I didn't have an answer. Because I did. And it wasn't the kind of answer that fit in a place like this. The kids were screaming, I said finally. And no one else was coming. Silence. Real silence this time. Not enforced, not commanded, just absence. And right there, standing in front of the most powerful being I'd ever seen, I realized something. She hadn't asked that question for the court. She hadn't asked it for protocol. She asked it like she genuinely didn't understand. And for the first time since I'd been dragged onto this ship, I had the strange, unsettling feeling that I wasn't the only one out of place here. If you've watched this far, then this story is really interesting to you. Please confirm it by clicking like under this video. It doesn't cost you anything, but it will help me understand what story to publish for you next. Let's move on. I didn't plan to tell them what really happened. Not like that. In my experience, rooms like this don't want truth. They want something clean. Something that fits into their version of events. A neat story with clear roles. Hero, coward, victim. What happened on Ardent Vale wasn't clean. It was loud, chaotic, stupid. And it started with a mistake. You're saying, one of the nobles cut in sharply, unable to hold himself back any longer, that a civilian technician acted where trained officers failed. His tone made it clear he didn't believe it. Or maybe he just didn't like what it implied. I glanced at him, then back at her. Yeah, I said. That's exactly what I'm saying. More murmurs. Sharper now. Defensive. The Empress didn't silence them this time. She just watched me. Explain, she said. So I did. The first explosion wasn't supposed to happen, I began. My voice steadied the more I spoke. Your boarding teams used shaped charges, clean entry, controlled. But someone miscalculated the pressure differential between the outer hull and the civilian ring. A few of the nobles shifted uncomfortably. That wasn't information they expected a prisoner to have. 3 fractures opened up across the station. Not big at first. Hairline. But in vacuum, that's all it takes. I could see it again as I spoke. The flashing lights, the alarms, the sound of atmosphere tearing itself apart. Emergency bulkheads should have sealed automatically, I continued. But the system lagged, probably due to the initial shockwave. So instead of isolating the damage, I paused. They hesitated. That landed heavier than anything else. Because everyone in that room knew what hesitation meant. Your soldiers pulled back? I said, looking directly at her again. Command gave the order to regroup. Officers headed for evacuation points. By the time anyone realized what was happening in the civilian sector, I shook my head slightly. It was already going. The chamber was quiet again. But this time it wasn't shock. It was discomfort. The hull split along maintenance access corridors, I said. Those aren't reinforced for full decompression. They're meant for repair crews, not combat damage. Pressure started dropping fast. I flexed my hands unconsciously. I could still feel the vibration of failing systems through the metal floors. I was in Section C-12 when the alarms hit. Routine diagnostics. Nothing important. A dry breath escaped me. Then the temperature dropped. Fast. That part always stayed with me. Not the explosions. Not the chaos. The cold. You ever feel air disappear? I asked before I could stop myself. No one answered. Of course they didn't. It doesn't scream, I said quietly. It doesn't explode. It just leaves. And everything with it. I forced myself to keep going. There were kids in that section. Families. Not military. Not personnel. Just people. I swallowed. And they were trapped between two failing bulkheads. The image hit harder now. Smaller. Sharper. A girl pounding on a sealed door. A voice over comms breaking up mid-sentence. They were calling for help, I said. Over open channels. Anyone who could hear. I glanced around the chamber. No one answered. That wasn't entirely true, but close enough. I had access to maintenance routes, I continued. Service shafts. Manual override panels. Stuff your soldiers didn't even know existed. Or didn't care about. Another ripple of tension. Good. They weren't designed for what I did with them, I admitted. Half the systems were already failing. Fire in 2 corridors. Vacuum in the 3rd. And the pressure seals. I let out a breath. They were shot. I could still feel the heat on my skin. The way the metal groaned under stress. I crawled through a section that was already venting, I said. Tethered myself to a support beam and reached the manual seal from the outside. That part always sounded worse when I said it out loud. Probably because it was. One wrong move and I would have been pulled straight into vacuum, I added. No recovery. No body. Silence. Deep, heavy silence. But I got it closed, I finished. Locked the breach. Stabilized pressure long enough for the bulkheads to cycle. I shrugged slightly, the chains rattling. That's it. No heroics. No drama. Just a job. You risked your life. One of the nobles said slowly, like he was trying to understand the concept itself. For civilians not of your species. I looked at him. They were kids. That was answer enough. Or at least, it should have been. I turned back to her. She hadn't moved. Not once. Her eyes were still on me. But now there was something else behind them. Not confusion anymore. Something deeper. Something unsettled. You could have died, she said. Yeah. And yet you chose to act. I frowned slightly. Chose. I repeated. It didn't feel like a choice. That seemed to catch her off guard. What do you mean? She asked. I hesitated. Then I said it anyway. Because when someone's screaming for help and you're the only one who can do anything. I met her gaze fully. It stops being a decision. The markings along her temples flickered. Just for a second. But this time, I was sure of it. That wasn't control. That was reaction. Around us, the court was completely silent now. No whispers. No movement. Just attention, pulled tight between us. And in that moment, I realized something else. They weren't listening to me anymore. They were watching her. Waiting to see what she would do with what I'd just said. Waiting to see how something like that, something they clearly didn't understand, would fit into their world. And for the first time since I'd been dragged into that chamber, I had the strange feeling that it didn't. Not yet. The silence didn't break all at once. It cracked. Not from me. From them. Your radiance. One of the nobles said carefully, stepping forward like he was walking onto unstable ground. This testimony is irregular. The human's account is. Enough. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The word cut clean through the chamber, sharp enough to stop whatever argument was about to form. The noble froze mid-sentence, head lowering instinctively. And then something changed. I didn't understand it at first. There was no visible signal. No announcement. No shift in posture dramatic enough to mark the moment. But I felt it. Like pressure dropping before a storm. The empress stepped back from me. Not retreating, just creating space. The kind of space that means something important is about to happen. Her gaze swept across the chamber, slow and deliberate. By the old laws, she said, her voice calm, measured. By the codes that bound this dominion before we ever touched the stars. A ripple moved through the court. They knew where this was going, and they didn't like it. I invoked the oath of recompense. That did it. The room erupted, not in chaos. These people were too controlled for that, but in sharp, overlapping protests that barely held themselves together under the weight of protocol. Your radiance. This is unprecedented. He is a prisoner. A human. I didn't understand half of what they were saying, but I didn't need to. The tone was enough. Shock. Fear. Anger. She didn't react immediately. She let them speak for a moment, just long enough for the unrest to surface, to expose itself fully. Then, silence. Everything stopped. Again. And this time, it stayed that way. I shifted slightly, the chains at my wrists clinking softly. I'm guessing that's not a common thing, I muttered. Her eyes flicked back to me, just for a second. No, she said. It is not. Then, louder, back to the court. The oath is clear. A life debt of this magnitude cannot be ignored. It cannot be diminished. And it cannot be refused. You cannot apply it here, another noble insisted, more boldly this time. The law was written for equals, for those who demonstrate honor within the dominion, not for captured outsiders. Her gaze sharpened. That is what the law says, she replied. Or have your studies become so selective? That shut him up. I stood there, trying to piece it together. Life debt. Oath. Something old. Something serious. Something they were genuinely afraid of. She turned fully toward me again. Daniel Hayes, she said. Hearing my full name in that room felt strange. Like it didn't belong there. You saved lives endangered by my forces, she continued. By the ancient code, that debt is mine to repay. I frowned slightly. Look, I wasn't. Name your reward. The words landed heavier than anything else she'd said so far. The entire chamber seemed to lean in. Anything within my power, she added. Freedom, wealth, protection, resources, a ship to return you to your world. A pause, or anything else you desire. I blinked. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. Around us, the tension snapped tighter. This is absurd, someone hissed under their breath. He cannot. He will. Another voice cut in quietly, but with unmistakable dread. I looked at her. Really looked. Past the authority. Past the control. There was something else there. Not obligation. Not entirely. Something personal. And then, without meaning to, my mind jumped somewhere it probably shouldn't have. To the anomaly. The garden lights. Every night. Same time. No one allowed inside. I didn't know why that stuck with me, but it did. Because standing here, with an entire empire watching her, I had the distinct feeling that whatever was happening right now wasn't just about a law. You're serious, I said. Yes. No conditions? None. No tricks, no. I gave my word. That was it. No hesitation. No loopholes. Just certainty. Behind her, the nobles were on edge now. Not just angry, worried, calculating. Because whatever I said next, they couldn't stop it. That was the part that really got to me. I'd spent most of my life being the least important person in the room. The guy no one listened to unless something broke. And now, an entire empire was waiting for me to speak. I could feel their expectations pressing in. He'll ask for freedom. He'll ask for power. He'll ask for advantage. That's what made sense to them. That's what they understood. I looked at her again. At the faint pulsing light along her temples. At the way she stood slightly apart from everyone else. Even here, even now. And for just a second, I remembered something I wasn't supposed to know. Lights turning on in an empty garden. Every night. At the same hour. I took a breath. Okay, I said slowly. I've got something. The chamber went completely still. Even the air felt different. Like it was waiting. And for the first time since this started, I had the strange, unsettling feeling that whatever I was about to say wasn't just going to surprise them. It was going to change something. I just didn't know what yet. I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't know what I wanted, but because I knew exactly what they expected me to say, and I wasn't going to give it to them. The silence stretched. Long enough to make them uncomfortable. Long enough for anticipation to turn into tension. I could feel it pressing in from every side. The court, the guards, the nobles, every one of them waiting for something they could understand. Something predictable. I looked at her, still watching me, still steady. But now there was something else behind her eyes. Not command. Curiosity. Go on, she said quietly. I exhaled. Dinner. The word landed wrong. Not dramatic. Not powerful. Just small. Confused murmurs rippled instantly through the chamber. What did he say? I didn't break eye contact. With you, I added. Just dinner. That did it. The reaction was immediate. Outrage. Disbelief. A few of them actually laughed. Sharp, incredulous sounds that echoed off the crystalline walls. You dare. This is mockery. He wastes an imperial oath on. She raised her hand. And everything stopped. Again. But this time, it wasn't just authority. It was shock. Even she hadn't expected that. I could see it. Just for a fraction of a second, the break in control. The smallest pause before her expression reset, into something composed. "Clarify your request," she said. "No advisors," I said. "No guards hovering over us. No ceremony. Just two people having a meal." I hesitated, then added, "Somewhere quiet." The last words felt heavier than they should have, because I wasn't just saying them. I was thinking about that garden, the lights, every night, at the same hour. The court didn't like where this was going. "You cannot seriously consider this," one of the nobles snapped. "This is beneath. The oath has been invoked." Her voice cut through him, cold now. "Final. It will be honored. But enough." Silence. Total. She didn't look at them again. Only at me. "You could have asked for your freedom," she said. "I know. For wealth. For power. For your people's protection. I know. Why didn't you?" There it was again. Not political. Not formal. A real question. I considered lying. Something safe. Something that wouldn't complicate things. But I'd already come this far. "No one's asked me anything in a long time," I said. That wasn't the full truth. So I finished it. Not without wanting something back. A flicker. That same subtle reaction in her expression. "I figured," I continued, "if I'm going to get one thing out of all this." I shrugged slightly. "I'd rather it be something real." The chamber didn't understand that. I could tell. But she did. Or at least, she was starting to. For a moment, she just stood there, looking at me, like she was measuring something that didn't fit into any of her usual calculations. Then, "For 11 days, she said slowly, "I have been surrounded by celebration, reports, demands, and silence that was not my own." The nobles shifted uneasily. This wasn't for them. "I have spoken to hundreds," she continued, "and not one of them has said anything that was not expected." Her gaze didn't leave mine. "You asked for something unexpected." I didn't say anything. Didn't need to. The answer was already there. She turned slightly, just enough for her voice to carry across the chamber. "Tomorrow evening," she said, "the request will be granted." Shock hit the room again, but quieter this time. Heavier. "Your radiance. I will handle my own schedule." That ended it. No argument. No appeal. She looked back at me. "For now," she added, softer, "you will be released from restraints." The chains around my wrists unlocked with a sharp metallic click. I hadn't even realized how tight they'd been until the pressure disappeared. I flexed my hand slowly. Freedom. Not the kind they expected me to ask for. But it felt just as real. As the guards stepped back, unsure of what they were supposed to do now, I caught something out of the corner of my eye. One of the attendants. Quiet. Observant. Triggering a control panel. And far beyond this chamber. Somewhere I still hadn't seen. The garden lights turned on again. Right on time. I looked back at her. She hadn't moved. But this time, I knew. That wasn't coincidence. And whatever was waiting for me tomorrow, it wasn't just dinner. They didn't take me back to the holding cells. That was the first sign something had shifted. Instead, I was escorted, politely this time, to a set of quarters in the outer ring of the palace. Not luxurious, but clean, quiet. No chains. No guards posted inside. Just a door that locked from the outside. Progress. I didn't sleep much that night. Partly because of the bruises. Partly because my body still hadn't decided if it was safe to relax. But mostly because of the lights. Even from that distance, I could see them. A faint glow beyond the palace structures. Low and steady against the dark curve of the horizon. The private garden. Same time as before. Same duration. Like a habit. Or a ritual. I found myself watching it longer than I should have. Trying to understand why that bothered me more than everything else. The next evening, they came for me without ceremony. No chains. No weapons drawn. Just a quiet escort through corridors that gradually lost their grandeur the deeper we went. Fewer guards. Less light. Fewer people. Until eventually, none. We stopped at a set of doors that didn't match the rest of the palace. Simpler. Organic. Like they had grown there instead of being installed. One of the attendants gestured. Inside. And then they left. No guards posted. No witnesses. Just me and whatever was waiting on the other side. I hesitated for a second, then stepped in. The first thing I noticed was the air. It was different. Warmer. Softer. Carried a faint scent I couldn't place. Something like damp earth mixed with something floral and unfamiliar. The second thing. The light. Not artificial. Not exactly. The entire space was filled with a soft glow, coming from the trees themselves. Tall, crystalline structures that pulsed faintly, like slow breathing. And at the center, a small table, 2 chairs, And her. No throne. No robes that dragged across the floor. Just something simpler. Still unmistakably hers, but less. Less distance. You're staring, she said without looking up. I exhaled, realizing I had been. Yeah, I admitted. Sorry. You do not sound sorry. I'm not. That earned me the smallest pause. Then, something close to a smile. Not quite, but close. Sit, she said. I did. Carefully, like I might break something. The table was set with food I didn't recognize. Steam rising from a bowl of something clear. Bread-like pieces arranged beside it. Vegetables, maybe, cut into clean shapes. I was advised this would not harm you, she said. Beyond that, I make no guarantees. I picked up a piece of the bread, turned it in my fingers. If I drop dead, I'm going to assume this was all a setup, I said. That would be inefficient, she replied. I took a bite. Paused. Huh. Her gaze shifted slightly. That is acceptable? It's good, I said, a little surprised. Better than most things I've had in the last few years. She made a quiet sound. Not quite a laugh, but closer than anything I'd heard from her before. We ate for a while without speaking. And for once, the silence didn't feel heavy. It wasn't the kind from the throne room. Not controlled. Not enforced. Just there. Comfortable. I found myself glancing around again. At the trees. At the light. At the fact that no one else was here. You come here every night? I said. It wasn't a question. She didn't answer immediately, but she didn't deny it either. Yes. Why? She set her utensil down. For a moment, I thought she wouldn't answer. Then, because it is the only place where no one expects anything from me. That landed harder than I expected. I leaned back slightly, studying her. That's why the lights turn on, I said. Her eyes flicked toward me. A reaction. Small, but real. You noticed. I wasn't supposed to, I said. But yeah. Silence again. But different now. You have lost someone, she said. Not a question. I let out a slow breath. Yeah. A child. That made my grip tighten slightly on the edge of the table. How? I saw it in your response, she said. When you spoke of the children. I looked down for a second. Then back at her. My daughter, I said. 8 years old. The words still didn't feel real. Evacuation failure. I added. Hull breach. Seals didn't close in time. A pause. I was too far away. That was the part that always stuck. Not the loss. The distance. I couldn't reach her. I finished. The garden felt quieter after that. Even the light seemed to slow. I have outlived my entire bloodline, she said. I looked up. Her gaze wasn't on me anymore. It was on the trees. My bond mate, she continued, voice even, controlled. My children. Their children. A small pause. I watched them all die. There was no emotion in the way she said it. And that made it worse. After a certain point, she went on. You stop allowing yourself to feel it. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I said. I tried that too. Did it work? I shook my head. No. A faint shift in her posture. Nor did it for me. That almost sounded like humor. Almost. We sat there for a while after that. No pressure. No expectations. Just existing in the same space. You saw something in me, she said eventually. I looked at her. Yeah. What? I thought about it. Then answered honestly. Someone who looked exactly like I did after it happened. That got her attention. Not the empress. Her. You presume much, she said. Maybe, I replied. Am I wrong? She didn't answer. Not right away. Her hands tightened slightly around the cup in front of her. Then, I do not know what I want anymore, she said quietly. And that felt more honest than anything else she'd said so far. I nodded. I get that. Another silence. But this one was different. Because now, we both knew something. Not about the Empire. Not about the war. About each other. And for the first time since I'd been dragged into this place, I didn't feel like I was completely alone anymore. Neither did she. The attempt came 3 weeks later. I was awake when he entered. Not because I sensed him, because I couldn't sleep. Same reason as always. Same thoughts. Same ghosts. The glass behind me shifted, almost silent. Then movement. I turned just in time. The fight wasn't clean. No training. No skill. Just instinct. A tool in my hand. A swing I didn't think about. Then another. When it was over, he wasn't moving. And I was. Barely. She arrived minutes later. No guards. No delay. Just her. You're hurt, she said. I'm fine, I answered automatically. I wasn't. Neither was she. I could see it in the way her markings pulsed. Fast, uneven. They'll keep coming, I said. Whoever sent him. I know. For a second, she looked like she might break. Then she didn't. I will end this, she said. No, I told her. Not like that. You'll start a war. Silence. Then we do it your way. 3 days later, she dismantled them. Not with executions. With proof. With precision. Exile instead of blood. The empire stayed intact. But something else changed. Afterward, in the garden, she finally told me. The lights, she said. They began the day I heard about what you did. I looked at her. Why? Because I didn't understand, she said. Why someone would risk everything for strangers. A pause. Her gaze met mine. Now I do. I smiled slightly. Good. She hesitated, just for a second. Then, dinner, I asked. This time, she smiled first. Yes. And for once, it wasn't about a debt. It was a choice. Thank you for listening to this story to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Write in the comments what moment in this story impressed you the most. And also check out the other videos that just appeared on your screen. See you in the next video.